After many allegations, many talk come out for Rivers State, say nothing like crude production dey go on for PH Refinery. NNPC don burst out come let us know say na lie dem dey talk. Say production dey go on for the refinery. No say Nigeria no trust NNPC because dem don promise am face severally. Understand? Dem don promise us one time say deadline of say the refinery go come on stream for so time. When dem don face severally, so Nigeria no trust them again. So now they struggle to prove point. Say yes, the refinery dey on board.
In the past 24 hours, Nigerian newspapers have been awash with stories about the non-functionality of the Port Harcourt refinery, despite repeated assurances by the State Oil Corporation NNPCL that petroleum products were actually made available and lifted from the facility on Tuesday last week. The industry regulator has tried to explain that the refinery has yet to commence bulk sales or opened its purchase portal as essential processes are still being finalized. We're now being joined for a wider chat around this by Tony Ogbuigwe, the national president of the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, then, fantastic. So let's, go straight into it. On Tuesday, we hear the news about the Port Harcourt refinery operating at 70% with an expectation of it to operate by go up to 90%, 600,000 barrels per day as an expectation. But as of yesterday or 2 days ago, there are reports coming in from the Alessa community that the refinery is actually not running the way, it's a fallacy what we've been exposed to. Can we talk a bit on the operational status of the refinery? These allegations that it's old stock that has been there for over three years, and that rather than a newly refined output, what are your thoughts on these allegations coming in from different people that have gone down to the refinery to find out whether these claims are true or not? How would you react to this?
Thank you for inviting me on the program, and thank you for the statements that you've made about allegations. I am here as a professional, as the president of the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers. So the truth of the matter is that the Port Harcourt refinery, the Area 5 of Port Harcourt refinery, is running, and it is indeed running. Port Harcourt refinery has two parts. There is the old refinery and the new refinery. The old refinery is the one that has been brought back into operation. It is running. We can confirm that it's running. We have made contact with our colleagues, professional chemical engineers who are on the ground, and they have confirmed that the refinery is indeed running. Products are being produced from the old refinery, and those products are being blended to give the PMS that we consume in our cars and diesel oil, which we consume in trucks, and which some of us use in our generators as well. Those products are indeed being produced. Kerosene is also being produced, and that is the truth.
Well, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ogbuigwe, but we want a lot more detail, in terms of what makes a refinery to run, and therefore take us into the heart of Area 5, with the expectations, with the expectations of Nigerians in mind. When Dangote Refinery, of course a lot bigger, a lot larger, was going to start, yes, we went through different phases of readiness. But then by the time that the refinery was eventually ready, we could see that products were coming out, they were being loaded, and we can feel them outside. I don't think what Nigerians want to hear is something that will be similar to an analogy of a car that has been down for 2-3 years, and then an engineer comes, a mechanic, and says, oh, I've put it back to life, I've turned the engine on, and you can see that the car is running. But then the owner of the car says, no, I want to drive it. I want to be able to take it to church, like on a Sunday, like this. I want to be able to use it to carry my wife, my children, etc. It's not enough to say that the car is running. It has to move. And therefore, take us into the heart of Area 5. And why is there delay for the refinery to get out products that Nigerians can use? What will that take? How long will that take? Why is there a delay from last week that, the beautiful, great announcement was made, and now that Punch reported yesterday that nothing is happening because there is nothing going on around the loading bay? Explain to us in a way that we will understand, please.
Exactly as you referred to the Dangote refinery, it had to be brought up in stages. It's exactly the same thing that is happening in the Port Harcourt refinery. Crude oil comes into a refinery and goes into what is called the crude distillation unit. There is the distillation in the column, and products come out from the column at various levels. From the top is gas, which eventually goes to give you your cooking gas. And then the next level down is light naphtha or straight run gasoline, as some call it. And then the next level is heavy naphtha, and then kerosene, and then diesel, and then fuel oil, which is from the bottom of the column. These are the straight products that come from the column, but they go for further processing in different parts of the refinery. The heavy naphtha goes to what is called a catalytic reforming unit, where it is then reformed into high-octane stock, because the light naphtha, or straight-run gasoline, as some call it, is low-octane, and it's not meeting the spec of the 9091, which is the standard for PMS. So what has happened is that the Area 5 was commissioned, and the main column, the crude distillation unit, has been commissioned and is running. And as I said, it is producing those products. And however, the heavy naphtha, which should go into the catalytic reforming unit, that unit, the CRU, is the next unit which will be brought on stream. And that is not yet on stream. Some people have been making statements in the media about a product called cracked C5 coming from Eleme Petrochemicals, and that is what they've been loading. No. The reality, the truth is that the Area 5, otherwise called the old Port Harcourt refinery, is producing light naphtha or straight-run gasoline, is producing heavy naphtha, is producing kero, is producing light gas oil, which goes out as your diesel, and it's also producing fuel oil. Now, those things are then blended. The light naphtha is blended with the cracked C5, which is being obtained from Eleme Petrochemicals, and together, that is what is giving you your PMS. Okay. I'm surprised people say that no loading has taken place. Loading has actually taken place, and trucks have been loaded, and those trucks have gone out to go and supply the public. Okay, you can actually yourselves visit the Port Harcourt refinery and confirm for yourselves that what they are reporting is indeed true.
Okay, so I just want to clarify two things here. First, are you saying that the journalists who went to the Port Harcourt refinery on Friday and found the loading bay empty, that they are misleading the public, that the journalists who went there and saw the loading bays were empty and were told that something is being recalibrated, that they are misleading the public by reporting what they saw, or that the host community who says that these trucks are not going through are also misleading the public about what they are experiencing? And the second thing is, because you have said that products are being refined and products are being blended, I want to ask you, is it not misleading that the NNPC will say that they are 70% capacity and are producing PMS, but are also at the same time bringing in high RON PMS to blend with naphtha? Is there anything being refined right now, any product outside of naphtha at the Port Harcourt refinery?
Yes. Crude oil is what is refined, And that crude oil gives you different products.
Is there
I should
any
explain
product
very
being
simply.
given outside of naphtha? That's what I'm trying to clarify. Is there any product being given outside of naphtha? Or is it, because what we are being told, what the emails that were leaked is being said, is that PMS is brought into the Port Harcourt refinery, and then the naphtha product is then mixed with that and then given out to Nigerians?
It's not PMS that is brought in. It's cracked C5. Cracked C5 is a high research octane number fuel, a product that is a byproduct from the LMA petrochemicals processes. That is high octane stock. That high octane stock is then blended with the light naphtha, which is lower octane stock, to give you the 90-91 run that you need for PMS. PMS is what you buy in the filling station. That PMS is made from high octane stock and low octane stock. The high octane stock that they have right now, because the CRU is not yet in operation, is the cracked C5 that is coming from LMA petrochemicals. That is blended with light naphtha, and that is what is giving you PMS.
So is it then a blending? Yes, that is clear. But if we're talking about blending, the high octane stock is being brought in. It's a low octane naphtha that's then being blended with it. So is it then a blending plant and not
exactly?
Okay, then that means Port Harcourt refinery is a blending plant, not a refinery at 70%.
No. Sorry.
Production of PMS.
Sorry, Adesuwa.
Yes.
Sorry, Adesuwa, you've got it wrong.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there's a mistake you're making here.
Okay.
The refinery is producing, like I said, light naphtha, is producing kero, is producing light gas oil, otherwise called diesel, is producing atmospheric residue, which goes out as fuel oil. It's producing all these things, okay? Not just light naphtha. It is producing all these things. And all these things go into storage, where you then blend them to get your products, which you buy in the filling stations. So the refinery is producing not just light naphtha, but also heavy naphtha, also kerosene, also light gas oil, otherwise called diesel, also atmospheric residue, otherwise called fuel oil, and those are all going into storage. And then from the storage tank, you do your blending to give the final products that the consumers outside are familiar with. I hope that clarifies.
To an extent, I believe it does. But let me take it a bit further, because you've spoken about, the refinery blending this cracked C5 petroleum resins alongside these other products and other inputs to blend it to the fuel. So is this blending being used here as a stopgap while full refinery operations are restored, or is it a long-term strategy? And what is the cost implication of blending compared to actually refining crude oil at full capacity, which is the expectation or the expectation of a number of Nigerians?
Let me again explain. There is a slight misunderstanding in the minds of the people. Every refinery does blending every day. In the refinery, we produce, like I've told you, these products which are not the products you see outside. We produce LPG. We produce light naphtha. We produce heavy naphtha. We produce kerosene. We produce light gas oil. We produce heavy gas oil. We produce atmospheric residue. These things go into the storage tank, every refinery. Then, from those storage tanks, you then start blending for the public, because these things I've mentioned now are not the things that the public consumes. The public consumes PMS. What is PMS? PMS is a blend of light naphtha, which is a lower run byproduct, with high octane products like cracked C5, or when the catalytic reforming unit starts, they will produce reformate. Reformate is high octane stock. By the time the CRU starts, there will really be no need anymore for the cracked C5, because the CRU produces reformate, which is high octane. The octane of reformate is about 95, 94, 95, 96, depending on start of run, end of run. And that is what is then blended with light naphtha to give you your PMS. Now, you may have heard me say earlier that we produce light naphtha and heavy naphtha. The heavy naphtha is what is sent to the catalytic reforming unit to be reformed. That is why it is called reformate. It's reformed in the catalytic reformer to give you reformate, which becomes high octane stock. That is when it is then blended with light naphtha to give you your PMS. Diesel, on the other hand, comes from lower down in the column. The light gas oil, and is blended with some portion of heavy gas oil to give you diesel, okay? What you call fuel oil, which is used in power plants and so on, is made from the balance of the heavy gas oil and the atmospheric residue. That gives you fuel oil, which is used for power plants and other purposes. So I hope I've explained. Every refinery does this. It is not that I hope it's clear. Right.
Absolutely, right. Engineer Ogbuigwe. I mean, you are the expert. You are the expert, and we defer to you. Given the fact that one of the clarifications that the spokesman for NNPC made, Femi Shonaye, was that there is a lot of ignorance in what critics of the Port Harcourt refinery, are expressing, and you've broken it down for us. But I would like from you words that will be more, popular, to many Nigerians. Femi did explain that it's not even just 70%, but 90% operational is what we have in Port Harcourt now. Engineer Ogbuigwe, are you there? Okay.
I am here.
I can see that you're there. So it says we're actually at 90%. If we manage to get to optimal capacity, it's a 60,000 barrel per day capacity refinery. What will be the expectations of Nigerians in terms of what this translates to, in terms of PMS? How many liters per day do you think that this will translate to Nigerians? And do you think that there will be any impact at all in terms of pricing? Part of the problem that people have had with the Dangote refinery is the fact that, it hasn't brought any significant reduction in the price of liter of petrol. Will we, as Nigerians, at least benefit that if Port Harcourt refinery gets into full operation?
As far as I know, the refinery is running at about 60 to 70% right now. They are probably ramping up towards 90. So maybe it has been ramped up yesterday or whatever, as the gentleman you referred to mentioned. Of course, that can be confirmed. Yes, that can be confirmed. So hopefully, when they ramp up to 90%, then of course there will be more products coming out. What I would really be looking forward to will be for the catalytic reforming unit to be brought into operation as well, so that the refinery, Area 5, can fully optimize the crude oil that it is processing, and then you can have a lot more products reaching the public. As for the price at which they sell it, because it is a refinery in the country, I'm sure they are going to look at their production costs and what it is costing them to take it to the people, and then the price will be determined accordingly. What has been happening in the past is that all prices were being indexed to the price at which they are bought in Rotterdam. Rotterdam typically is the port that is used for pricing of petroleum products when they are imported. So because you get that crude petroleum product in Rotterdam, you then ship it all the way from Rotterdam to Apapa and then discharge into tankers, into bulk storage. From the bulk storage there, it goes into the storage of the main various marketers and then eventually to the filling station. So there's a cost associated through all of this. There is a template which is used in determining the price of petroleum products. What we may hope is that since they are no longer having to transport this product from Rotterdam, we will see a little difference between the price it was before when it was being imported and now that it's being produced. But we'll see. That will depend on the efficiency of operation and the costs that they are incurring in the process of producing the products. I hope that has answered your question.
All right then, can I just find out from you this morning, why do you believe Dangote, of course, who opened his refinery a couple of weeks ago, is not blending naphtha with imported high-octane products? All the products are refined at Dangote refinery, but we're not seeing the same thing at the PH refinery. What is the reason behind the differences in how both refineries get their products?
As I explained earlier, when Dangote started, they also started just with their crude distillation unit, and they were running the products to storage. Over time, they then started the units that are downstream. They started the CRU after some time, then they started the FCC after some time, and so on. It was when they started the CRU and the FCC that they were then making high-octane stock, which they blended with the straight-run gasoline or light naphtha, which they had sent to storage earlier. That was when they were able to start supplying PMS. If you remember, that was exactly what happened. It's the same thing that is happening here with Port Harcourt Refinery Area 5. The only difference is that Area 5 is fortunate that right next door to them is LMA Petrochemicals Company, which is producing this cracked C5, which actually has an octane number, a run, of somewhere between 95 to 97. That is the luck that Area 5 has. Yeah. So that cracked C5 is now being blended with the light naphtha that they are producing to give PMS. That's why they're able to give PMS quickly. Yeah. If you recall, Dangote, when they started up, they did not immediately start selling PMS. They were selling diesel because you can do, diesel is your light gas oil, like I explained. And then, fuel oil, you do the same. So it took them time. They had to start the downstream units before they were able to start blending to give PMS. I hope you recall that transition.
Yes,
in bringing products into the market.
I do recall that transition, but it seems that with the Dangote refinery, there was honesty along the path of what they had the capacity to refine and not refine at any point in time. However, the NNPC did inform the Nigerian public that they were producing PMS, and again that they were at 70% capacity, but now we're learning that they are blending in order to be able to produce that PMS. So I guess what Shaitan was trying to say is, why did NNPC not take their time and just like Dangote refinery first roll out diesel, first roll out what they have the capacity to refine with their own crude stock rather than having to import high octane fuel from elsewhere? Was it a rush by the NNPC as they did not load on Friday according to witnesses? So did they rush out this process to Nigerians? Did they mislead Nigerians by not being clear with their communication?
Okay. Now I see where the slight confusion is coming from. If you recall, the first statement that we all heard was on Tuesday when they started loading trucks at the loading bay. And they said they loaded PMS and diesel. And that was indeed the case because they already had that cracked C5 in their storage tanks. For your information, I used to be the managing director of Port Harcourt Refinery in 2010. We actually have two lines that link Eleme Petrochemicals with Port Harcourt Refinery. One line takes what we call propane-rich feed from Port Harcourt Refinery to Eleme Petrochemicals. The other line brings back cracked C5 from Eleme Petrochemicals to Port Harcourt Refinery. So that cracked C5 was already in the storage tanks in Port Harcourt Refinery. So as soon as they started Area 5 and they were producing light naphtha, they were producing diesel, they were able to immediately start blending the light naphtha with the cracked C5 to make PMS. And that is what they loaded out on Tuesday. They loaded it on Tuesday, they loaded it on Wednesday, they loaded it on Thursday. Now, there was an issue. I have confirmed this because I had to get in touch with our colleagues who are at the refinery. And they explained that they needed to do more blending of the balance of light naphtha that was being produced with the cracked C5 that they had in storage. So they took time, Friday, to do that blending so that they would be able to continue loading out. I think people misunderstood that to mean that, oh, it was not producing. No. Loading out products has to be done after blending. Okay, let's give the benefit of the doubt. I think that the reality we are facing in the country today is that there's a deficit of trust among us as a people. But let us make all efforts, again, to be transparent in reporting and also believe when a transparent report is being given. Sometimes it's like an elephant, you know, somebody who touches the trunk, you know, a blind man touches the trunk of the elephant and says, oh, this thing is very big. Another blind man touches only the snout, that is in the front of the elephant. He said, no, 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 it's just like a pipe. He's not seen the whole picture. And because of that, people tend to misunderstand things. And that leads to misrepresentations and wrong interpretations. All right. Let us build a climate of trust again in our nation, both on the side of the governed as well as the side of the governors. Let us build trust on the side of the officials as well as the side of the public and all the stakeholders, and our country will be a lot better for it.
All right, then thank you so much for your submissions this morning on the morning show. We appreciate you.
After many allegations, many talk come out for Rivers State, say nothing like crude production they go on for PH Refinery. NNPC don't bust out, can't let us know, say now lie they talk. Say production they go on for the refinery. No say Nigeria has not trust NNPC because they don't promise and face severally. Understand? They don't promise us one time I say deadline of say the refinery will come on stream for so time. When they don't face severally, so Nigeria not trust them again. So now they struggle to prove point. Say yes, the refinery they on board.